We've really seen the broader impact and influence of label technologies across the entire value chain. So really the rebrand acknowledges, this evolution and kind of positions us better to serve the expanding needs of the industry and our community. Initially, because everyone loves this brand and they've known it for pretty much all their lives. And we expected questions like, why did you need to rebrand? There's no need for it. Just bring all these elements in. And interestingly enough, we tried to bring, elements that actually were already there.
In a world where brands compete for attention, where innovation meets strategy, and where storytelling drives success, join Ken Terrio and Randy Kessler as they dive into the world of branding, business, and beyond.
Joining us on today's episode is Jade Grace. She is the Managing Director within the Labels and Packaging Group at Informa Markets, touching on year 21. Someone I've worked with and known for nearly 20 years. How's it going today, Jade?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you on and to hear all things LOUPE and what's happening, and we're excited to hear.
Yeah, so that Ken touched on it there. That's going to be the scope of this episode. LabelExpo is rebranding, name change, becoming LOUPE. So we're going to talk about the story behind that, what it means for the broader industry. So I guess we can jump right in, Jade. The question that's on everybody's mind is, what prompted the decision to rebrand from LabelExpo to LOUPE?
Yeah, the decision to rebrand really came from recognizing that our industry has evolved significantly, kind of beyond traditional labels. And although it remains our core focus, we've really seen the broader impact and influence of label technologies across the entire value chain. So really the rebrand acknowledges, this evolution and kind of positions us better to serve the expanding needs of the industry and our community.
Excellent. So when did you guys start thinking about doing the rebrand? Like, how long of a process? When did that enter the conversation?
I mean, a really long time, actually. I mean, Randy and I have both been with the group for 20 years. So we're very, very wedded to the name. We've kind of grown up with LabelExpo, labels and labeling. So the idea of rebranding was really hard to even think about. But it was 6 years, really. A long, long time. I mean, even beyond that, Andy Thomas Evans, who is the former editor of Labels and Labeling magazine and now the strategy director of the group, him and I actually talked about this early in 2019. And then obviously COVID hit, so, you couldn't really do anything about it. But it really gave us the time and the opportunity to kind of go through, the pros and cons, all the things we needed to kind of get ready to even think about rebranding. But I should say really that, as someone who's been in the industry for like 2 decades, really showing my age here, kind of witnessed firsthand how the boundaries between labels, flexible packaging, folding cartons really becoming blurred. So I'd say that the rebrand really is a natural progression rather than a sudden market shift.
So the name LOUPE, what is that? Talk about LOUPE, like why LOUPE? What does that mean? What does that represent?
Yeah. So was in the print industry, and I think those who deal with, print managing kind of printed elements, you tend to use a LOUPE, which is a precision instrument that you look through to kind of give you clarity and to examine in detail the print quality. So it's very much, like our industry. It symbolizes quality, attention to detail, and LOUPE is also a double acronym, so it stands for Labels and Out Embellishment, which really perfectly encapsulates our expanded scope. We're very much at the core still a labels-focused event. But it's a wider lens, excuse the pun, that brings in the broader package printing sectors. I
Oh,
think it's a
that's
really clever name. I mean, but I
no,
would
I
say
love it.
that.
Very clever. And as a branding geek, I love kind of bringing the symbology and those components to it because it just helps kind of layer on, additional meaning. Um, but as you just 2 decades in with Label Expo, and I've been attending Label Expo since probably just over a decade. Um, how did it feel kind of closing that chapter and letting go of that name?
It was hard. I'm not gonna lie, we did wake up in the night, in a cold sweat thinking, should we be doing this? It's such a well-established and much-loved name. And just seeing what it means to everybody, gosh, Randy and I've attended how many label expos? I can't even count it. And I think the most challenging bit was we wanted to make sure that we carried on honoring this incredible legacy and recognition that Label Expo, has built over the last 45 years. But I think, and that's why we picked the LOUPE name, because it's so symbolic for our industry. And I think the double acronym really helps people understand, okay, this is, I think the acronym very much explains exactly what, the platform, the show now encapsulates. So we didn't want to abandon our heritage, but really evolve with it.
So just a follow-up question there. Obviously, you guys were recently acquired by Informa. Were they supportive of this? Did that help kind of accelerate it? Obviously, you've been thinking about it prior to kind of that transition, but did that help kind of kickstart it, or?
It's because it was already something that we were thinking about since 2019. We only got acquired in 2023. So that it was already happening. We engaged an agency. I mean, what was good about Informa, us being part of Informa, was they already had a list of all the branding agencies that could help us. We already knew we were going to do it. So there was this agency that also rebranded several other big Informa brands. So we knew that they knew what they were doing and that we could trust them. And so it wasn't just the branding agency that we got to do this bit of exercise, but we also pulled in another agency that surveyed data from outside of the data set that we owned. We're talking designers, brand owners within industries, verticals like pharma, food and beverage, personal care, all the areas that we want to serve. So we surveyed not just our data, but a whole set of data outside of what we kind of own, and it came back with survey results that pointed overwhelmingly towards Rebrand. So that really helped us make that decision, because you can feel something and you can think something, but you really need the support of the industry and also the industry that you're moving into.
I love that doing, we do a lot of brand audits and kind of adding the qualitative and quantitative components together to make an informed decision. So you don't end up with like a Cracker Barrel experience. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Cracker Barrel experience, but they rebranded and the market didn't accept it as well. And they end up having to go back. So, do your research for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's also important for people to understand, right, that if anyone's nervous about like, oh, they're not a labels show anymore, like, right, Jade, labels is still the core focus, right? I mean, absolutely.
Absolutely. Hugely so. And that's why it was really important for us to kind of, I mean, Randy, you were part of all these discussions as well. We really wanted the new name to have an L in it, rightly or wrongly, because labels was very much
Absolutely.
At the forefront, and it just felt right. It had to sit right with all the stakeholders kind of within the team as well, and it took us a very long time to kind of come up with a name that we were all happy with, that we felt comfortable with, and we thought that would do it justice. And kind of, I don't know if I answered Ken's question well enough with Informa. So they very much supported us in that decision, but they left it very much with us because they know that all the experience and expertise lies within the team. I mean, just Randy and I alone have had 20 years experience, but we also have Andy and Tisha and like so many others that, have had, who's been with the company for 2 decades, which is pretty crazy for a media company.
Well, I mean, I also think that it's a heavy task because unlike other industries, within labels and packaging, we have a lot of brand owners, we have a lot of designers, we have a lot of people that have strong opinions and a lot of expertise. So the bar is just higher. It's just higher for it to be accepted. So, and I think you guys did a great job.
Thank you. It's a relief to hear that.
Ken, that's kind of a good segue into sort of where I want to go next, which is the initial feedback. So this was announced at LabelExpo Europe in Barcelona, correct, Jade? That was when the announcement, initially happened. So what was the initial response and the feedback from some of the key players over at the event in Barcelona?
It was exactly how we expected it to be, which was shock initially because everyone loves this brand and they've known it for pretty much all their lives. And we expected questions like, why did you need to rebrand? There's no need for it. You just bring all these elements in. And interestingly enough, we tried to bring, elements that actually were already there, but you wouldn't believe what important role semantics play. Just because they're called LabelExpo, everyone's like, no, it's LabelExpo. We can't go to that show because it's not relevant, even though you explained to them what's got all the people that you just mentioned you wanted to say. It's, and we ran a little bit of an experiment at LabelExpo Asia in 2019. And this is how far back we actually been thinking about this. And it was when flexible packaging was very prevalent in our industry. And there were many flexible packaging converters that wanted to come to the show, but pretty much said to us, well, we're not coming because it's LabelExpo. So we created another brand called Flexible, FlexPack. It's just called FlexPack. It's a show within a show. And the amount of flexible packaging converters and exhibitors that came to LabelExpo Asia that year was, kind of exponentially higher. And it was an exercise that showed Andy and I that semantics really made a difference, even though the messaging didn't change. So we kind of knew that we needed to have a rebrand, a change to the name, even though we didn't want to because we ourselves were so wedded to the LabelExpo name. But,
You talked about some of the data sets and the qualitative, quantitative functions that you use. Did you, communicate with attendees and vendors and exhibitors to get their feedback prior to doing it?
Yeah. So the survey that went out was across to thousands in our database. So that would involve suppliers who are exhibitors to our show, printers, converters who are visitors, as well as brand owners that come and visit our show. And on top of that, the body of work that we got the Rebrand consultant to do was really in-depth questioning with 18 stakeholders. And they were printers, converters, suppliers, brand owners, and across different genders, ages. We wanted to make sure it was a massive spread. And the questioning was quite divergent questioning in that, if they thought a certain way, we pushed them further. So if they were a protagonist, we pushed them further. And if they were an antagonist, we pushed them further to see how, what people's thoughts were, the length and breadth of it, as to why you absolutely should not rebrand and why you absolutely should. So, it was a 60-page report that we got back. It was intense. And it was, against all our competitors and, the state of the market and what was needed. And it overwhelmingly pointed to a rebrand, which surprised me and all of us, Randy, if you recall.
Yep.
We thought, the industry would be maybe 60-40, and that would have been enough to nudge us, but it was, I'd say 80, 85, percent towards a rebrand?
Yeah, I love hearing this because it's a case study in rebranding. One of those things that we at TheRiot often say is, your other than your brand is more than a logo, it's the experience. But there's this component that like you don't actually own your brand. The market owns your brand. Like you're just the steward of its reputation, but ultimately it's what people, the first impression, what their perceptions are. That's what makes up the brand. So it's important to get the owners involved in the conversation, and I think it's a testament of not following the process correctly.
Ken, I'm so glad you said that because I always say that to the industry. We don't own LabelExpo. We're really kind of cute, like, caretakers. And we didn't need to do the rebrand. Honestly, the show was doing so well. We didn't need to. And it would be the easiest thing in the world to have just stay where we were, kind of sit on our laurels and do nothing. Honestly, it would have made the last 2 years so easy. We owe it to, I mean, we can see what's coming ahead in the next 5 years. The print and package printing industry is just undergoing huge change. And we know that it is absolutely the right thing to upgrade this platform and do the work now. Not before it's too late, whilst the time is right. That's our job, to support the industry in areas that it needs help with, like workforce. When you kind of get the surveys from the younger people, LabelExpo is not a sexy name. That was kind of came back in a lot of the survey. And the likelihood of them coming to something that was, a little bit more upbeat, and another name that was a bit more, I think, not, I don't want to use the word generic because that's not what I'm going for, but, something that's not so, like, obviously descriptive. How you have Tech Expo, LabelExpo, I don't know, Cement Expo. I mean, they did something that was a little bit more kind of with the times. And I think Loop really future-proofs our industry to however it evolves into the next 20, 45 years. I think, it kind of can remain a platform that grows with and evolves with the industry.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's just more inclusive, right? I think we're, overall, like you're talking about changes within the market, digital has provided kind of this convergence of different disciplines. So I see, just from my perspective, I see there's some convergence in terms of, what is a label converter and a flexible packaging printer. There's a lot more crossover these days for a variety of different reasons, either shorter runs or leveraging personalization and digital. So there's just more common interest to bring them together, and so much of the technology is the same, right? You're just, it's different platforms, maybe different, end uses, slightly different end uses, but at the same time, the technology is pretty similar with a lot of the similar vendors, right? So it's better to have a much more comprehensive show that is inclusive of everybody within the market that's interested in the technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very, very well said there, Ken. So Jade, in this process, right, you make this announcement. So like, what kind of either positive or negative feedback, some interesting things that came out of it? I mean, there had to be some people like, you guys are absolutely crazy. Others like, oh, that's super interesting. That makes sense. So like, you could humor us or you could whatever kind of answer, but I'm sure there's things you've heard that I probably haven't even heard yet that are pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think the good news is every naysayer, every single person that I've met who's just like, I don't know why you've done it. I don't think it's necessary. When they hear the reasons why, and they've kind of realized it wasn't some sort of a whim, or we've done so much work, there's so much data to back it. And once they hear our side of it, I have to say we've converted everyone. They like completely see it. I get it. And then there are, I mean, and dare I say it, there are the younger members of our industry get it immediately. I completely see it. I think it's so clever. You're doing absolutely the right thing. And it's, I think the best and most surprising response I've had so far is that in fact, quite a few people came up to me and said, thank you, because now that LabelExpo is rebranding, it's making me feel better about how I've kind of diversified and changed up my business, because if you guys are heading there, that's where, business is kind of heading. So that's been the flip side that's been really interesting for me. People feeling kind of quite relieved by us that we've done the rebrand, because it's reflected what they've done in their businesses.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I've had conversations with clients and they're talking about the same things you are. And yeah, it's like a light bulb goes on. They're like, oh yeah, I guess we do a lot of flex pack stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like if you're a pilot, it's the weather report, right? Like it's like, where are the winds shifting? Like, we're going to go ahead and tell you like the winds are shifting this direction. So if we're planning accordingly, then you're able to catch the wind and have a tailwind versus a headwind, right? So it's probably a lot of early validation for organizations that were feeling it. Some of them that were already acting on that intuition. And also for the ones that weren't, understanding that it's probably time to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving forward, kind of looking ahead, how do you plan to communicate this and reinforce what LOUPE stands for moving forward? Because we haven't had these conversations with every single person in the industry, right? So will there be a big marketing campaign around this? Obviously, we'll push this podcast out to help people.
Yeah. We're kind of speaking to a lot of associations. I presented at the TLMI just last month. I think we've got such a community and an audience on L&L as well as LabelExpo. It's into the tens of thousands. So we will be giving more information out that way. But I think the best way is not just not just telling people how LOUPE, it is kind of transforming our industry. So at LabelExpo Asia, which will be the last iteration of the show as LabelExpo, this is in Shanghai next month. We have a digital pouch factory as a feature. It's it will be one of the most visited areas at our show. I mean, that show is, that show has grown so much in the last 20 years. It's the size of LabelExpo Americas, now. And it just highlights to you that, that LOUPE is already our industry, because that's what we're showcasing on the show floor. And that will be one of the kind of key highlights for the industry. So, yeah.
So following on that too, then what does the name change / rebrand allow you to do that LabelExpo didn't? It kind of inviting, like you talked about the pouch factory, or more maybe, flexible packaging area. How, just elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say too much at the moment, but already associations have kind of come to us that, because you're now rebranding, even though they were completely relevant to us, because all these elements were already existing within LabelExpo, they feel they can openly come to us, wanting to work with us and wanting LOUPE to be like their new home, which is really positive and really everything we had hoped this rebrand would be. I think it, without sounding too cheesy, I mean, LOUPE allows us to be more kind of authentic and embracing what we really are, and to be able to serve the flexible packaging and folding carton sectors that are relevant to us a little better. And it removes any kind of perceived limitations, and like I've just said, with these new associations, coming to us, and it opens doors to opportunities for not just our exhibitors, but also this the show. They get to see more that's relevant to them. I think, so win-win.
Yeah, I mean, you're stating your intentions, right? You're telling people like this is the direction we're headed in, and it allows people to kind of to get aligned with you.
Yeah.
So, I think it's excellent.
So you mentioned LabelExpo. Asia is the last official LabelExpo. So how does it look moving forward with the rollout of Loop? So Loop Americas in Chicago is the official first kind of
Yep.
major. Okay.
Yep, it is. Yeah. The rollout begins with Loop Americas next September. And then the and then after that will be Loop India, Loop South China, and really we'll carry that formerly LabelExpo tag for quite a while, because really it's the same show plus, it's kind of supercharged. It's, just LabelExpo, but a bit better. So not much has changed, all the good stuff that you loved about LabelExpo will still be there.
So if we had a crystal ball right now, we looked 5 years into the future, what does a successful rebrand look like to you?
Fool. I would want Loop to be recognized as the driving force for the industry, that helps the entire industry kind of navigate technology shifts, opens doors for them, because let's be honest, that's what our platform should be. We should be doing the work for the industry. We are that marketing platform. We are that networking platform, that sales platform. And we want to be that platform that effectively drives growth across all packaging formats, all the relevant package printing formats. And so I suppose success looks like in a few years, us still being that number one platform. Yeah.
Excellent.
That almost kind of answers the next question we were going to ask, which is kind of, if there was a singular message you wanted the industry to take away from all this, what would that be? And I think you kind of just answered this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just reinforce it by saying, I want Loop to be the same as LabelExpo. LabelExpo has been the standard, I think, of, it's been the premier platform in our industry. It's where everyone converges, and by that, I mean, all the key players in our industry, all the top tech, they wait to reveal it at LabelExpo. Loop's going to be different. We're still as committed to innovation, to growth. The core focus is still labels, but, because no one can think of the word labels and not think self-adhesive labels, but really labels is decoration on a bit of packaging, really, information and decoration, right? That's what it is. And that's what Loop really is. We're just kind of breaking it down a little bit further, because sometimes people's brains just don't want to go there, right? They just want to be told, this is, so it's labels and outer packaging embellishment. It's exactly what the show is. So yeah, that's the message. We still want to be that premier platform for the industry. It's just that it's evolving, and we kind of want everyone on board with us for the ride. I mean, hopefully it's a good one. I think it will be.
Love it.
So, I mean, anything you want to plug, Jade? We always give guests a chance to hey, check out this, or this is something interesting you should see. So can they read more about it online somewhere? Is there a specific website they can go to? Or
yeah, so we have our website now. That's so labelexpo.com is going to keep running, and it'll just redirect you to loop-global.com. And that website actually has all the information you could possibly need about, what the platform is currently, as Loop. And I would say, come to Loop Americas. It's LabelExpo Americas, but a lot more. We are just putting so many new features that are exciting, and we're working with new partners. And, for those that sometimes, come to every other edition of LabelExpo Americas, come to Loop Americas, we'll see something really different and something really innovative and energetic for our industry. That's what I'd say.
That's great.
That is great. And also, we didn't touch on this. Labels and labeling as a publication is not name changing at all or rebranding. It will still be labels and labeling.
It will still be labels and labeling, serving the core labels market. I mean, it's such a well-loved magazine that does such an amazing job that that's something that we still want to keep really specialist for the industry.
Awesome.
So, I mean, this is the most direct branding podcast we've ever had, I think, right, Ken? I mean, we're literally talking about a rebrand. So, I mean, outstanding. I love it. But we always do end with some rapid fire questions, Jade. So we can't have a branding podcast without asking you about brands. So what is your favorite brand?
I really hate to say this. I really don't want to say it, but I wouldn't say that it's my favorite brand, but I'm such a hostage to it. So I've got to give it its props, right? And that's Apple. So boring, I know, but I'm such a hostage to it. I know it makes gazillions, and I really shouldn't be lining the pockets of these tech billionaires. But here I am, upgrading my phone every single time, buying iPads for the family, AirPods. I just can't stop, and kudos to them for just, making the user experience so brilliant that I'm a hostage, So
I
it's
don't
not my
think
favorite brand, but it's definitely the brand that takes the most money out of me.
I mean, Apple, in a lot of ways, has done a great job of setting the bar, of what a brand really is supposed to do. It's supposed to invoke an emotion, of the user, right? And so that's what, when you have a powerful brand like that provides so much equity for you to, go not just deep in, the markets that you play, but also wide. It's where they can, start selling computers, but then offer a phone, but then also offer a music service, and now also offer headphones, because everyone's perceived experiences. This is going to be a well-designed, easy to use, capable, component that they just trust it, right? It's that brand to person experience that allows, and they could offer anything.
And they have an app with TV shows and movies now. So
it's not like they can. A credit card, right? Like they've offered a credit card, like, so it's all these components where people, it's just a trusted name that they're going to have a good experience, and so I don't think you should be ashamed of loving that brand.
I really hate myself, but it is the truth. So
honestly,
it's great. I mean, my oldest dropped his phone in the toilet yesterday, his iPhone, and it was, I don't know, 4 seconds. He grabs it out, and 6 years ago, that Apple product would have been shot, right? But now, overnight, dries out. It's going to go the next day, like unbelievable. I mean, borderline waterproof.
And it is. There.
So on the flip side, okay, so Apple's great. What about the opposite end? What about your least favorite brand, or one that annoys you or you don't like?
This one's an easy one. And it's that
Most people have a harder time with this one, yeah.
Oh no, because I absolutely adore this brand. It's have you heard of Shein? That clothes store that sells things for like £1 or £2, and it just rips absolutely everything off, and I refuse to buy anything from it, even though it is so cheap. And I know, I mean, it sells everything. It's got everything, but I refuse. I refuse to go there because it just stands for just ripping other people's ideas off, paying really terrible wages to some sweatshop somewhere, and I'm proud to say that despite, I mean, it hasn't even tempted me once, even though I know I'm paying 10, 50 times the odds. I just don't like that brand so much that I won't even go there, So there you go.
That's a good answer.
And last one, best business related book, or I guess any book you've read recently. We've had some good answers on this one, a wide range of answers as well. They're not always business. They're, we've been like, wait a minute, what is that book? Yeah.
Yeah, I will. The book I'm reading currently is called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And he's like an ex-FBI negotiator. And it's really a masterclass in negotiation because I'm doing that a lot lately. I just thought, I need to read this book. And it is brilliant. It's a brilliant book. And it not only just helps you in the workplace, but helps me at home with my teenagers. You can use it anywhere. And yeah, I recommend reading that book. It's
phenomenal. I read it a couple years ago.
yeah.
It is. And it's one that I think you can continuously reread, and it just the ability to stay calm under pressure is such a key factor in just, I guess, not only everyday communication, but certainly when the stakes are higher and there's stress involved with the communication, being able to just, it's like they say, not getting angry in situations where normal people get angry is like a superpower, just to stay calm at all times. Like I don't have that. I have to train myself to do that. But like my father-in-law is the calmest person ever, like always just composed and in control. I'm like, how do you do that? Did you train to do that?
But I think that's what the book actually tells you. You can train to do that. And, because, it gives you kind of cues and things to look out for. I find myself being really calm now, because I'm looking out for those kind of cues and I'm biding my time and things like that. It does actually train you to think super clearly. I found it really helpful. Of all the books I've read recently, that's been a really good one.
I love that. So check it out.
That's good.
I'm going to have to reread it so I can apply it to my everyday life again.
You recognize me doing things like that, though, Randy.
Yeah, I'm going to call you up. Like, oh, you just read chapter 4, didn't you? Yeah. That's awesome. So, all right, Ken, anything else? Or
congratulations on the rebrand. We appreciate you coming on and kind of telling us about the process and the future. As a long-time LabelExpo exhibitor and attendee over the years, I'm excited about the future, and you definitely have the approval of me. So, not that it means anything, but kudos.
It does, very much so. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun talking to you both.
Yeah, thanks again, Jade. We'll have to reconvene in, I guess, a couple years' time to see how the rebrand is going, right?
Yeah, we should. Yeah. LOUPE revisited. So
exactly. Yeah. Yep. Outstanding. All right. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jade.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jade.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us on Unpacking the Brand. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, we'd love it if you could share this podcast with your network or leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are passionate about business, branding, and innovation.